I'm a prophet. And I've even got the hazy, halo-y type of visual effect to go with that, caused by the fact that my iPhone XR has shat itself, and I'm back to my iPhone 5, which was always a bit water damaged. So, hence the drop in quality, by the way, in my YouTube clips lately. But I have a prediction. No mother in Australia will call her daughter Karen in the next decade. I looked into the bottom of my coffee cup to work that one out. But Karen, very interesting. You know, the way that's become a derogatory term all of a sudden. I even did an episode called Karen a few episodes ago. You're right, I lied. I haven't finished my coffee. And this thing, Karen, I saw on the news somewhere that it's been a common term in the United States of America for the last decade or more. And no, we've only just heard about it here in Australia. Well, I've only just heard about it. The first I heard the word Karen as a derogatory term, as an identity group, had to have been only weeks ago. How did I miss that? But then again, you know, and this reminds me of the fact that blackface has been a derogatory term, a commonly known derogatory term in America for a long time, and in Australia we'd never heard of it until a while ago now, but not that long ago. The first I would have heard about it would have been 10 years ago, maybe. And quite a few years ago, I was sort of arguing the point that, because I was told I should have known, and if I didn't know, I should have found out. Yeah. There was a famous moment where I went to a fancy dress party, you see, as Michael Jackson, and I was tossing it up as to whether to go as black Michael Jackson or white Michael Jackson. Now, as it turns out, I went as white Michael Jackson, looking like a freak. I thought that would work better for the fancy dress party. I went as white Michael Jackson, but absolutely nothing to do with the fact that I was, trying to avoid going blackface, because I didn't know what blackface was at the time, and I know I would have been about 31 or 2 then. I'm 57 now. All right, so that's 20-something years ago. But apparently blackface was a known thing even back then. But how would you know back then? Because that was before the internet. So I avoided being sacked. Now, because there's been people sacked via photos leaked onto the internet of themselves back in the days in Australia when blackface, it wasn't known that, it wasn't even known that painting your face black, to be Michael Jackson. Look, I was no fan of Michael Jackson. I was taking the piss. But I could have dressed as Little Richard, I would have been happy to do that. And there would have been nothing offensive in my mind about what I was doing. I was told recently that in such a case you should not only... it's not a matter of not knowing. Not knowing is no excuse, sort of thing. But I said, well, but what if there was no way of knowing? I said, no, you should, before you dress up as Little Richard or Black Michael Jackson, you should check that it's not offensive. And, to which I wondered, how would you know to check that it might be offensive? And where would you check? Go down the library and look up the encyclopedias. Wow, that's a big ask. Because you have to walk right past the Biggles books to get to the encyclopedias. And who's going to do that? Biggles Takes a Holiday. I haven't read that for a long time. Whoosh. Out you go. Ah, damn. Forgot to check the encyclopedias, just in case there was something about the fancy dress party I'm going to tonight in there, and that I shouldn't go as Little Richard, even though I think he's really great. You can't know these things. But apparently, I actually think this Karen thing is getting out of hand, and I've got some friends called Karen. I'm working with one now, and I've got some friends as well named Karen, and I think it's really awful, actually. I think this could get out of hand, it's kind of typecasting. Oh, it's something. I don't know what it is. It's labeling a whole lot of. It's racist of some sort. Some sort of racist, but not racism. But it's something like that. I don't know what it is. I'll go to the library and check the encyclopedias to see what it is. Walk down the aisle. Ah, Biggles flies west. But there's my prediction anyway. That no mother will call her daughter Karen in the next decade. Maybe Chinese women will, because I've noticed Chinese. It's not only the women, isn't it? The fathers have a say too. I noticed Chinese people use what we would, they might give their kids names that went out of fashion for us a long time ago. So maybe we'll have some Chinese Karens now. But I predict no white Karens in the next decade. Because that's just buying into that's setting the child up. No parent who loved their child anyway would call their child Karen. This reminds me, actually, a whole lot of kids called Isis a beautiful name. The cult of Isis back in ancient Rome. It was rivaling Christianity there for a while in the time of Nero. Nero used to try and smash the Isis people too back then. The people in the cult of Isis, from Egypt and all that sort of stuff, and Isis is a beautiful name, and I still think so. And when Islamic State rose up, and all that stuff, and for a while, everyone named ISIS was saying, "Oh, gee, that's really rough," and then suddenly someone said, "Oh, we've got to get the word Islam out of that, because that's not very politically good," and then they say, "Oh, let's start calling it ISIS." And then all these ladies, women and girls, and parents of girls called Isis were saying, "What? No. Our beautiful word." So it can be tough on people, I bet. All that.